Yuna felt the ship break apart around her. One moment she was running through the medical bay, grabbing supplies and shouting for the refugees to get to the escape pods. The next moment, the wall beside her disappeared. The metal screamed and twisted, and then she was falling through the gap into the black emptiness of space. She tumbled end over end, her small body spinning through the void. Her suit sealed automatically, but she heard the warning sound immediately. A crack in her helmet, air escaping. She had minutes, maybe less. The Valorian medical transport was gone. Pieces of it floated around her like broken bones. She could see fires burning inside some sections, the flames dying quickly as the oxygen ran out. She could see bodies drifting. Some were her patients, some were her friends. The raiders had come from nowhere. 3 ships, fast and cruel, tearing through the transport like it was made of paper. The refugees aboard had already lost everything once. Now they had lost their lives too. Yuna tried to stop her spinning. She moved her arms and legs slowly, the way she had been trained. After a long moment, she managed to steady herself. She floated in silence, looking at the destruction around her. Her oxygen counter showed 4 minutes remaining. She checked her suit for the distress beacon. It was working, sending out a signal into the darkness. But she knew the truth. They were in empty space, far from any station or patrol route. No one would hear her call. No one would come. 3 minutes. Yuna was a healer. She had spent her life learning to save others. She had left her home world after the war destroyed it, joining the medical service to help refugees like herself. She had held dying patients and told them not to be afraid. She had promised them peace was waiting. Now she would find out if that was true. 2 minutes. She thought about her mother, who had died in the first attack on their colony. She thought about her teachers, who had shown her how to use her empathic gifts to ease suffering. She thought about all the patients she had helped over the years, all the hands she had held. She hoped she had done enough good. 1 minute. The cold was spreading through her suit now. Her fingers were numb. Her vision was getting dark at the edges. She was so tired. It would be easy to sleep. Yuna closed her eyes. She let go of her fear. She let go of her sadness. She let go of everything and let herself drift in the silence. This was the end, and she accepted it. She was not afraid anymore. 30 seconds. She felt something. At first she thought she was imagining it, a vibration like a heartbeat against her back. Then pressure around her body, gentle but firm. Arms. Someone was holding her. Yuna opened her eyes. A face looked down at her through a helmet visor. A strange face, flat and soft, with 2 small eyes and a mouth that was moving. The creature was speaking to her, but she could not understand the words. The voice was low and warm, like a song she had never heard before. Human. The creature was human. Yuna had heard stories about humans. All Valorians had. They were said to be violent and primitive, a young species that had barely left their home world. They fought wars among themselves. They ate the flesh of other creatures. They could not be trusted. But this human was holding her like she was something precious. Its arms were wrapped around her gently, carefully, as if she might break. It kept speaking to her in that strange, warm voice, and even though she could not understand the words, she understood the meaning. "You are safe. I have you. Hold on." She saw the ship behind the human. It was small and battered, with markings she did not recognize. Some kind of rescue vessel. It had come out of nowhere, appearing in the debris field like a ghost. The human carried her toward the ship. She could see an open airlock waiting for them. Other figures moved inside, preparing for their arrival. More humans. Yuna's vision was failing now. The darkness was closing in. She tried to stay awake, but her body was too weak. She had been without good air for too long. The human held her tighter. She felt its hand press against her helmet, a gesture that meant something. Comfort, maybe, or a promise. She closed her eyes again. When she opened them, she was inside the ship. The airlock had closed behind them. Air was flowing, warm and sweet. Someone had removed her damaged helmet, and she could breathe again. The human who had saved her was kneeling beside her. It had removed its own helmet, and she could see its face clearly now. A male, she thought. Young, with dark hair and dark eyes. He had a scar on his chin and lines around his eyes that came from smiling or squinting or both. He was still talking to her. His voice was calm and steady, like he had done this many times before, like saving dying strangers in the void of space was normal for him. Other humans gathered around. They wore uniforms with a symbol she did not know. They moved quickly but carefully, bringing blankets and medical equipment. One of them checked her vital signs and said something to the others. The words meant nothing to Yuna, but the tone was clear. She will live. The human who had saved her smiled. It was a small smile, tired but real. He said something else, just a few words, and then he touched her hand. Yuna did not understand humans. She did not know why this ship had come for her, or how they had found her, or what they wanted. Everything she had heard about this species told her to be afraid. But she could feel his emotions through her empathic sense. She could feel all of their emotions. There was no anger, no greed, no cruelty. There was only relief, satisfaction. They were happy she was alive. These humans had come into the darkness to find her. They had risked themselves to save a stranger, and now they were glad she had survived. Yuna looked up at the human who held her hand. She did not know his name. She did not know anything about him, but he had carried her out of death and into life, and she would never forget his face. She tried to speak, but no words came out, so she just held his hand tighter, hoping he would understand. He squeezed back, and for the first time since the attack, Yuna felt safe. Yuna woke to the sound of machines beeping softly beside her. She was lying on a medical bed in a small room with metal walls. The air smelled clean, like filters and chemicals. A thin blanket covered her body, and she could feel bandages wrapped around her chest where the suit had cut into her skin. For a moment, she did not know where she was. Then she remembered. The attack, the void, the human who had caught her as she was dying. She sat up slowly. Her body ached everywhere, but the pain was dull and distant. Someone had given her medicine. Someone had treated her wounds. She looked down at her arms and saw that her fur had been cleaned, the blood and dirt washed away. The door opened, and a human female walked in. She was older than the one who had saved Yuna, with gray in her hair and kind eyes behind small glasses. She wore a white coat and carried a tablet in her hands. The human smiled when she saw Yuna was awake. She spoke some words and gestured at the bed, clearly asking Yuna to lie back down. Her voice was gentle, like she was talking to a frightened child. Yuna did not lie down. She pulled the blanket up to her chin and pressed herself against the wall behind the bed. Her heart was beating fast. She did not know these creatures. She did not know what they wanted from her. The human female stopped walking. She held up her hands, showing they were empty. Then she pointed to herself and said a word slowly and clearly. Hana. A name. The human was telling Yuna her name. Yuna understood the gesture. She touched her own chest and said her name in return. The human Hana nodded and smiled again. She pulled a chair close to the bed and sat down, keeping some distance between them. Over the next hour, Hana examined Yuna carefully. She used instruments that Yuna recognized from her own medical training. She checked Yuna's heartbeat, her breathing, her eyes, her reflexes. She was thorough and professional, but also patient. Every time she needed to touch Yuna, she showed her the instrument first and waited for permission. Yuna began to relax. This human was a healer, just like her. She could feel Hana's emotions through her empathic sense. Curiosity, mostly, and genuine concern. No threat at all. When the examination was done, Hana spoke into a device on her wrist. A few minutes later, the door opened again. The human who had saved her walked in. He looked different without his rescue suit, smaller somehow, though still much larger than Yuna. He wore a simple uniform, dark blue with that same symbol she had seen before. His dark hair was messy, and he looked tired, but he smiled when he saw her. He said something to Hana, who answered with a few words and then left the room. The human pulled the chair closer and sat down. He pointed to himself. "Teho." Yuna repeated it carefully. "Teho." He nodded, still smiling. Then he pointed at her and said her name back, pronouncing it almost correctly. She could not help but smile a little at his attempt. Teho began to talk. She could not understand most of his words, but she understood his tone and his gestures. He was explaining things. Where she was, what had happened, why they had come. She caught a few words that repeated. Ship. Rescue. Safe. He was telling her that she was on a rescue ship, that finding people in trouble was what they did, that she was safe now. Yuna wanted to ask so many questions. Why had they come so far into empty space? How had they found her signal so quickly? What did they want in return for saving her life? But she could not ask any of these things. The barrier between them was too great. Teho seemed to understand her frustration. He held up a finger, asking her to wait, and then left the room. When he returned a few minutes later, he had another human with him. This one was young, maybe the youngest she had seen. A male with a round face and nervous energy. He was carrying a small device that Yuna recognized immediately. Her translator. It had been damaged in the attack, but this young human had clearly been working on it. He held it out to her proudly, smiling wide. "Dong-su," he said, pointing to himself. Yuna took the translator and fitted it into her ear. For a moment there was only static. Then the static cleared, and she heard words she could understand. "Really hope this works," Dong-su was saying. "I had to rebuild half the circuits. Valorian tech is so different from ours, but I think I figured it out. Can you understand me? Is it working?" Yuna stared at him. "Yes," she said slowly. "I can understand you." Dong-su made a loud, happy sound and pumped his fist in the air. Teho laughed and slapped him on the back. Yuna just sat there, amazed. "Good," Teho said, turning back to her. "That makes everything easier. You probably have a lot of questions." "Yes," Yuna said. "I do." She asked the most important one first. "Why did you save me?" Teho looked confused by the question. "Because you were dying." "But you do not know me. I am not human. I am nothing to you." Teho shook his head. "That does not matter. We are a rescue ship, the UNSS Mercy. When we hear a distress signal, we answer it. That is what we do." Yuna did not know what to say. Among her people, help always came with a price. Favors were tracked and debts were paid. The idea that someone would risk their life for a stranger with no expectation of return was strange to her. "Your ship changed course," she said. "You must have been going somewhere else, somewhere important." "We were carrying supplies to a colony," Teho admitted. "They needed medicine, but they could wait a few more days. You could not wait at all." Yuna felt tears forming in her eyes. She blinked them away quickly. Valorians did not cry in front of strangers. But these humans had seen her at her weakest already. They had seen her dying in the void, alone and afraid. Perhaps it did not matter anymore. "Thank you," she said. The words felt small and weak, not enough for what they had given her. but Tejo smiled like they were the greatest gift he had ever received. "You are welcome," he said. "Rest now. Heal. You are safe here, I promise." He stood to leave, but Yuna caught his sleeve. He looked back at her, surprised. "The others," she said. "The refugees on my ship. Did anyone else survive?" Tejo's face changed. The smile faded, replaced by something sad and heavy. He shook his head slowly. "We searched for hours," he said. "You were the only one." Yuna let go of his sleeve. She turned away so he would not see her face. She heard him leave the room, the door closing softly behind him. Then she was alone. She thought about the refugees she had been transporting, families with children, old ones who had survived so much already. They had trusted her to bring them to safety, and she had failed them. She was the only one left. Yuna lay down on the bed and stared at the ceiling. The machines beeped beside her, steady and calm. She was alive because of these humans. She had a debt to pay, and she would find a way to pay it. 3 days passed on the UNSS Mercy. Yuna healed quickly. Valorians were small but strong, and her body knew how to repair itself. By the 2nd day, she could walk around her room without pain. By the 3rd day, she was restless and bored. She was not used to doing nothing. Her whole life had been about helping others, treating the sick, comforting the dying. Now she sat in a small room while strangers brought her food and medicine, and she felt useless. On the morning of the 4th day, she made a decision. She found Tai-Ho in the ship's common room, eating breakfast with some of the other crew members. They all looked up when she entered, surprised to see her out of the medical bay. She ignored their stares and walked straight to Tai-Ho. "I want to help," she said. Tai-Ho set down his food. "Help with what?" "Anything. I am a healer. I can treat injuries and illness. I can help Dr. Hana in the medical bay. Please, I need to do something." Tai-Ho looked at her for a long moment. Then he looked at the other crew members. They exchanged glances that Yuna could not read. "Our injuries are not serious," he said carefully. "Small things, cuts and bruises. Nothing that needs a trained healer." "Small things matter," Yuna said. "Let me help with the small things." More glances between the humans. Yuna could feel their uncertainty, their hesitation. They did not know her. They were not sure they could trust her. Finally, a voice spoke from across the room. "Let her try." It was Captain Jiwon. Yuna had not met her yet, but she recognized her by the way the others treated her. The captain was a small woman with short gray hair and a face that showed nothing. She sat alone at a table in the corner, drinking something hot from a cup. "If she wants to help, let her help," Captain Jiwon said. "We could use another healer on this ship. Hana cannot do everything alone." Tai-Ho nodded slowly. "Yes, Captain." That afternoon, Yuna began her work. Her first patient was Dong-Su, the young engineer who had fixed her translator. He came to the medical bay with a burn on his hand from working on the ship's engines. It was a small injury, just red skin and a few blisters, but it was clearly painful. "Dr. Hana usually just puts cream on it," he said nervously. "And a bandage. That is all." "I can do more than that," Yuna said. "If you let me." She explained Valorian healing to him. Her people had empathic abilities, the power to sense and share emotions. The best healers could use this power to speed the body's natural recovery. It required touch, and it required trust. Dong-Su looked scared. "Will it hurt?" "No. It will feel warm. That is all." He thought about it for a moment. Then he held out his burned hand. "Okay. I trust you." Yuna took his hand gently in both of hers. She closed her eyes and focused on his injury. She could feel his pain like it was her own, a sharp, hot sting in her palm. She breathed slowly and let her energy flow into him, encouraging his body to heal itself faster. When she opened her eyes, the redness was fading. The blisters were smaller. Dongsu stared at his hand with wide eyes. "That is amazing," he whispered. "The pain is almost gone." Yuna smiled. "It will be fully healed by tomorrow. Keep it clean and dry." Dongsu ran out of the medical bay, shouting to the others about what had happened. Within an hour, 3 more crew members came to see her. One had a sore knee from an old injury. One had headaches that would not go away. One had a cut on his arm that was slow to heal. Yuna treated them all. Word spread through the ship. By the end of the day, she had seen almost a dozen patients. Their injuries were small, like Taeho had said, but she could feel how grateful they were for her help. She had eased their pain and made their lives a little better. That was enough. That night, Taeho came to see her in the medical bay. She was cleaning her equipment, preparing for the next day. He stood in the doorway and watched her for a moment before speaking. "You did good work today," he said. "Thank you. Your crew has been very kind to me." They were nervous at first. Valorians are not common out here. Most of them had never met one before. And now? Taeho smiled. "Now they think you are magic." Yuna laughed softly. It was the first time she had laughed since the attack. It felt strange but good. Taeho came into the room and sat on one of the beds. He looked tired like he always did. She wondered if he ever slept properly. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Yes." "Why did you become a healer?" The question surprised her. She set down her equipment and thought about how to answer. "My home world was destroyed in the war," she said finally. "I was young. I lost my mother and most of my family. I survived because a healer found me in the ruins and carried me to safety. She saved my life when she had no reason to. I never saw her again, but I never forgot her." She paused, remembering that day. The smoke and fire, the screams, the gentle hands that had pulled her from the rubble. "I became a healer because I wanted to be like her," Yuna continued. "I wanted to save others the way she saved me. I thought that if I helped enough people, maybe it would make up for all the ones I could not help. All the ones who died." Taeho was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke, his voice soft. "My sister died 3 years ago." Yuna looked at him. His face was calm, but she could feel the pain beneath it. Old pain, deep and heavy. "We were on a rescue mission," he continued. "A transport ship had crashed on a moon. Survivors trapped inside. My sister was part of the team. There was an explosion. I tried to get to her, but I was too late." He stopped talking. His hands were clenched in his lap. "I became a rescue specialist because of her," he said. "I thought that if I saved enough people, maybe it would make up for the one I could not save." Yuna understood. They were the same, she and this human. Both of them trying to fill a hole that could not be filled. Both of them running toward danger because they could not forget the ones they had lost. She reached out and touched his hand. He looked up at her, surprised. "You saved me," she said. "That matters. Your sister would be proud." He did not say anything, but he turned his hand over and held hers, just for a moment. Then he let go and stood up. "Get some rest," he said. "Tomorrow we reach the convoy route. Things might get busy." He left the medical bay. Yuna sat alone in the quiet room, thinking about what he had told her. She had been wrong about humans. They were not violent or primitive. They were broken and hopeful, just like everyone else, just like her. The next morning, Yuna was eating breakfast with the crew when the alarm sounded. Red lights flashed on the walls. A voice came over the speakers, urgent and fast. "Distress signal detected. All hands to stations." Yuna jumped to her feet. Around her, the crew was already moving, running to their positions. Taeho grabbed his rescue gear and headed for the airlock. "What is happening?" Yuna called after him. He looked back at her, his face serious. "Another attack. A refugee convoy. Valorian ships." Yuna felt her heart stop. Her people were in danger. "I am coming with you," she said. Tae-ho shook his head. "It is too dangerous. Stay here." But Yuna was already running after him. She would not sit safely on this ship while her people died. She would not lose anyone else. Not again. The asteroid field was full of death. Yuna stood on the bridge of the Mercy and stared at the destruction ahead. Pieces of ships floated through the darkness like leaves in a storm. Some were still burning, orange flames dying as the oxygen ran out. Bodies drifted between the rocks, small shapes in torn suits. Valorian bodies. Her people. "How many ships?" Captain Ji-won asked. "5 transport vessels," the navigator answered. "All destroyed. The raiders hit them fast and left." "Survivors?" "Unknown." "We are scanning now." Yuna gripped the railing in front of her. Her hands were shaking. This was her nightmare happening again. The same attack, the same death, the same helpless feeling in her chest. She had escaped once, but her people had not been so lucky. "There," Dong-su said suddenly. "One ship is still intact. Damaged but holding atmosphere. Life signs inside." Captain Ji-won leaned forward. "How many?" "At least 30, maybe more." 30 survivors. It was not many, but it was something. It was hope. "Take us in," the captain ordered. The Mercy moved through the asteroid field slowly, carefully. The rocks were thick here, and the debris from the destroyed ships made it worse. The pilot worked hard, turning and dodging, keeping them safe. Yuna watched the surviving ship grow larger on the screen. It was a civilian transport, meant for families and supplies. One of its engines was destroyed and there were holes in its hull. It would not last much longer. "Raiders still in the area," Dong-su warned. 3 ships, hiding behind the large asteroid at bearing 7. Captain Ji-won's face did not change. "How long until they see us?" "They probably already have." The bridge went quiet. Everyone understood what that meant. If the raiders attacked, the Mercy could not fight them. It was a rescue ship, not a warship. It had no heavy weapons, no armor, no shields. They would be destroyed just like the convoy. "Captain," Tae-ho said. He was standing near the airlock, already in his rescue suit. "Let me take a team to the survivor ship. We can evacuate them before the raiders move." "And if the raiders attack while you are outside?" "Then we die saving people instead of running away." Captain Ji-won looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded once. "Go! Be fast!" Tae-ho turned to his team. There were 4 of them, all in rescue suits, all ready to die for strangers. Yuna stepped forward. "I am coming with you," she said. Tae-ho shook his head. "No, you stay here. They are my people. They are scared and hurt. I can help them. I can calm them and heal them and get them to move faster. It is too dangerous." "I do not care." They stared at each other. Yuna could feel his fear for her, his need to protect her. But she could also feel his understanding. He knew why she had to go. He would have done the same thing. "Fine," he said. "Stay close to me." "Do exactly what I say." Yuna nodded. Someone gave her a rescue suit and she put it on quickly. It was too big for her, made for a human body, but it would keep her alive in the vacuum. The airlock opened and they jumped out into space. Yuna had done this before, moving through the void in a suit. But it was different this time. She was not dying. She was going to save others. She pushed herself forward, following Tae-ho toward the damaged ship. They reached the airlock and forced it open. The inside of the ship was dark and smoky. Emergency lights flashed red on the walls. Yuna could hear crying somewhere ahead. Children crying. "This way," she said. She led them through the corridors, following the sounds. Tae-ho and his team followed, their lights cutting through the darkness. They stepped over debris and broken equipment, moving as fast as they could. They found the survivors in the main cargo hold. There were more than 30 of them. Maybe 50, maybe more. Families huddled together, children clinging to their parents, elders lying on the floor with injuries. They all looked up when Yuna entered, their eyes wide with fear. Then they saw her face, a Valorian face, and the fear changed to hope. "It is okay," Yuna said in her own language. "We are here to help you. These humans are friends. They will take you to safety." An old female pushed through the crowd. She was tall for a Valorian, with silver fur and wise eyes. She moved like a leader, like someone who was used to being obeyed. "I am Elder Sora," she said. "I speak for this group. Who are you?" "My name is Yuna. I am a healer. I was rescued by these humans a few days ago. They came to save you, just like they saved me." Elder Sora looked at the humans behind Yuna. Her face was hard to read. Valorians did not trust easily, especially not other species. "Why would humans help us?" she asked. "Because we were dying," Yuna said simply. "That is all the reason they need." Before Elder Sora could answer, Teho's voice came through the radio. "We have a problem. The raiders are moving. They will be here in 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Not enough time to evacuate everyone carefully. They would have to move fast and hope for the best. "Everyone up!" Yuna shouted to the refugees. "We are leaving now. Take only what you can carry. Help the injured. Move!" The cargo hold became chaos. Families grabbed their children and their bags. The injured were lifted onto stretchers and carried by others. Everyone pushed toward the airlock where the humans were waiting. Yuna moved through the crowd, using her empathic abilities to calm the panic. She touched hands and shoulders, sending out waves of peace and courage. It was exhausting, but it worked. The refugees stopped screaming and started moving with purpose. Elder Sora stayed beside her. "You are strong," the old female said. "Your gift is powerful." "Not powerful enough," Yuna said. "We need to go faster." They reached the airlock. Teho and his team were already ferrying refugees across to the Mercy using cables and rescue pods. It was slow work, too slow. Yuna looked at the crowd of people still waiting and felt her heart sink. They were not going to make it. Then she heard a sound outside, a low rumble, like thunder. The raiders were coming. "Everyone hold on!" Teho shouted. The first shot hit the survivor ship hard. The whole vessel shook, and Yuna was thrown against the wall. She heard screaming around her, felt bodies falling. Another shot came, and another. "Get them across!" Teho yelled to his team. "All of them, now!" His team moved faster, grabbing refugees and pushing them toward the Mercy. Yuna helped however she could, lifting children and guiding the elderly. Her arms burned with effort. Her lungs felt like they were on fire. A third shot hit the ship, and this time part of the ceiling came down. Someone screamed. Yuna turned and saw a young mother trapped under debris, her child crying beside her. Yuna ran to them. She grabbed the debris and tried to lift it, but it was too heavy. Teho appeared beside her and added his strength. Together, they moved the metal and pulled the mother free. "Go!" Yuna told the woman. "Take your child and go!" The mother grabbed her child and ran for the airlock. Yuna turned to follow, but another explosion knocked her down. When she looked up, she saw that the ceiling was collapsing. Teho grabbed her and pulled her out of the way just in time. The debris crashed down where she had been standing a moment before. "I told you to stay close to me," he said. "I am close to you." "Not close enough." They ran for the airlock. Behind them, the ship was falling apart. Ahead of them, the last refugees were being pulled across to the Mercy. Elder Sora was one of the last, her silver fur bright against the darkness of space. Yuna jumped across to the Mercy and felt strong hands catch her. She was pulled inside the airlock, and the door sealed behind her. Teho was beside her, breathing hard, his suit damaged but intact. "Is everyone aboard?" he asked into his radio. "All survivors accounted for," came the answer. "We are full." The Mercy's engines roared to life. The ship turned and accelerated, leaving the asteroid field behind. Through the window, Yuna watched the survivor ship finally break apart, pieces of it scattering into the void. But the people inside were safe. 53 refugees saved from death. For the first time in days, Yuna felt something like hope. Then the Mercy shook hard, and alarms began to scream. The raiders were not letting them go. The fight was not over yet. The Mercy was not built for battle. Yuna understood that now, as the ship shook under another hit from the raiders. The walls groaned around her. Lights flickered and died. People fell against each other in the corridors, screaming and crying. "All hands, brace for impact," Captain Jiwan's voice came over the speakers. She sounded calm, like this was just another day. Like they were not all about to die. Another hit. This one was worse. Yuna heard metal tearing somewhere in the ship. The Mercy was fast and agile, but it could not dodge forever. The raiders had real weapons. It was only a matter of time. Taeho grabbed her arm and pulled her toward the medical bay. "Come on, Hana needs help." The medical bay was chaos. Injured people covered every bed and most of the floor. Some were crew members, some were refugees. All of them were bleeding or burned or broken. Dr. Hana moved between them as fast as she could, but there were too many. "Yuna," Hana said when she saw her. "Thank God. I need you." Yuna did not hesitate. She moved to the nearest patient, a human with burns on his face and chest. She put her hands on him and let her healing energy flow. The pain eased. The damage began to repair. She moved to the next patient, then the next. It was hard work. Every time she healed someone, she felt a piece of her own strength leave her body. That was the cost of Valorian healing. You gave part of yourself to save others. Use too much, and you could die. But she did not stop. She could not stop. Too many people needed her. The ship shook again, but this time it was different. The lights went out completely. When the emergency lights came on, they were dim and red. Something important had been hit. "Engine room is gone," a voice said over the speakers. "We are losing power." Losing power meant losing speed. If they could not run, they would be caught. And if they were caught, they would be killed. Yuna kept healing. There was nothing else she could do. Time passed in a blur of blood and pain and exhaustion. She lost count of how many people she treated. 10, 20, 30. Her hands moved on their own, her energy flowing out of her like water from a broken pipe. She felt dizzy and weak, but she did not stop. Then she heard Hana's voice, sharp and scared. "Where is the captain?" Yuna looked up. Hana was standing near the door, talking into her radio. Her face was pale. "The bridge took a direct hit," someone answered. "Captain Jiwan is down. We need medical now." Hana grabbed her kit and ran. Yuna tried to follow, but her legs gave out. She fell against a bed and held on, her vision going dark at the edges. She had used too much of her energy. She was empty, but she could not stop. Not yet. She forced herself up and stumbled after Hana. The corridors were full of smoke and sparks. Wires hung from the ceiling. The floor was tilted at a strange angle. The Mercy was dying around her. She found the bridge, or what was left of it. Half of the ceiling had collapsed. Consoles were destroyed. 2 crew members were dead at their stations, their bodies still. Captain Jiwan was lying on the floor near the command chair. Her leg was crushed under debris. Her face was covered in blood, but she was alive. Yuna could see her breathing. Hana was already working on her, trying to stop the bleeding. "She needs surgery, real surgery. I cannot do that here." "The medical bay," Yuna said. "We cannot move her." "Not with this injury." Yuna knelt beside the captain. She looked at the wound and understood. The leg was destroyed. If they did not act fast, Jiwan would bleed to death. "I can help," Yuna said. "I can stabilize her, give you time to operate." Hana stared at her. "You have already used too much. I saw you in the medical bay. If you do this, it could kill you." If I do not do this, she dies. Hana opened her mouth to argue, but Yuna was already putting her hands on the captain. She closed her eyes and reached for the last of her energy. There was almost nothing left, but almost nothing was not nothing. She pushed. The feeling was like fire inside her. Every nerve screamed, every muscle burned. She was giving the last of herself to this woman she barely knew, this human who had let her join the crew. But it was worth it. She could feel the captain's body responding, the blood slowing, the tissue starting to knit. She could feel life holding on where death was trying to take it. She pushed harder. The world went white. When she opened her eyes, she was lying on the floor. Hana was leaning over her, shouting something. Yuna could not hear the words. Her ears were ringing too loud. Then another face appeared. Tai-Ho. He was bleeding from a cut on his head, but his eyes were full of fear. Not for himself, for her. "Yuna," he said. "Yuna, stay with me." She tried to speak, but no words came out. She was so tired, so empty. She had nothing left to give. Tai-Ho picked her up in his arms. He held her the same way he had held her in space when she was dying the first time, gentle and strong and careful. "You saved her," he said. "The captain is stable. Hana is operating now. You saved her." Yuna tried to smile. She was not sure if it worked. "We are going to make it," Tai-Ho continued. "The raiders broke off. They hit us hard, but we are still flying. We will reach the station in a few hours. You are going to be okay." She believed him. She did not know why, but she did. Maybe because he had never lied to her. Maybe because his voice was so warm. Maybe because she was too tired to doubt anymore. She closed her eyes and let the darkness take her. When she woke again, she was in the medical bay. Not the busy, bloody chaos she remembered, but a quiet room with soft lights and clean sheets. She was lying in a bed with tubes connected to her arms, giving her fluids and medicine. She turned her head and saw Tai-Ho sitting beside her. He was asleep in the chair, his head leaning back. His mouth open a little. He looked exhausted. He looked peaceful. Yuna watched him for a while. This human who had saved her twice. This human who had carried her out of death both times. She did not understand him. She did not understand any of them, but she wanted to. She reached out and touched his hand. He woke immediately, his eyes snapping open. When he saw her looking at him, he smiled. "Hey," he said. "Welcome back. How long was I asleep?" 3 days. 3 days. She tried to sit up, but her body was too weak. She fell back against the pillow. "Easy," Tai-Ho said. "You almost died. Your body needs time to recover. The captain? She is fine. She lost the leg, but she is alive. Because of you." Yuna closed her eyes. She felt tears sliding down her face. She did not try to stop them. "I thought I was going to die," she whispered. "Again." "I know." Tai-Ho squeezed her hand. "But you did not. You are still here." She opened her eyes and looked at him. Really looked at him. His tired face and dark eyes and the scar on his chin. He was strange and different and nothing like her, but he felt like home. "Stay with me," she said. "Please." He nodded and settled back in the chair. "I am not going anywhere." And for once, Yuna believed that was true. The repair station was called Haven. Yuna thought the name was perfect. After everything that had happened, she finally felt like she had found a safe place to rest. A haven. The Mercy had limped into the station with half its systems dead and holes in its hull. The crew was exhausted. The refugees were scared, but they were alive. All of them somehow alive. It took 3 weeks to repair the ship. 3 weeks of rest and recovery while the station workers fixed the engines and sealed the breaches and replaced the destroyed equipment. 3 weeks for Yuna to get her strength back. She spent most of that time with Tai-Ho. They walked through the station together, exploring the markets and the gardens and the observation decks that looked out at the stars. He showed her human food and human music and human jokes that she did not always understand. She showed him Valorian gestures, the small movements of ears and tail that meant different emotions. He was a slow learner, but he tried hard. "Like this," she said one afternoon, tilting her ears forward and slightly down. "It means I am interested in what you are saying." Tae-ho looked at her ears carefully. He did not have ears like hers, just small flat things on the sides of his head. "How do humans show that they are interested?" "You lean forward. You make eye contact. You nod." "That is boring." "Yes, it is." He laughed, and she laughed with him. They did that a lot now, laughing together. She had not laughed this much in years. The refugees were given shelter at the station, at least for now. Elder Sora had spoken with the station council and arranged for temporary quarters and supplies. The Valorians were safe, but they had nowhere to go. Their convoy ships were destroyed. Their destination colonies were too far away. They were stuck. One evening, Elder Sora came to see Yuna in the room she shared with Tae-ho. The old female looked tired but calm, the way she always did. "I want to thank you," Elder Sora said, "for what you did. You saved many lives." "The humans saved them," Yuna said. "I just helped." "You did more than help. You showed courage. You almost died for strangers." Yuna did not know what to say to that. She had not thought about courage when she was healing the captain. She had just thought about not letting another person die. "The humans surprised me," Elder Sora continued. "I had heard stories about them, violent, selfish, dangerous, but these humans are not like the stories." "No," Yuna agreed. "They are not. They came for us when no one else would. The Galactic Council refused our calls for help. They said we were not worth the resources, but these humans came anyway." Yuna felt a cold anger in her chest. She had not known that the Council had refused to help. She had thought they simply did not know about the attack. "Why?" she asked. "Why would the Council refuse?" "Because we are refugees. Because we have no power, no wealth, nothing to offer them. We are just people who lost their homes and need a place to live. That is not enough for the Council to care about." Yuna thought about the destroyed convoy, the bodies floating in space, the children crying in the cargo hold, all of those lives, meaningless to the powerful ones who could have saved them, but not meaningless to the humans. "The Mercy will keep helping," Yuna said. "Captain Ji-wan has already decided. When the repairs are done, we will go back to the convoy routes. We will look for other refugees who need rescue." Elder Sora looked at her carefully. "We?" Yuna realized what she had said. "We." She had included herself with the humans without thinking, like she belonged with them now. "Yes," she said slowly. "We. I am going to stay with them, if they will have me." Elder Sora studied her face for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Good. They need you. And you need them, I think." That night, Yuna asked Tai-ho if she could stay. They were sitting on the observation deck, watching ships come and go from the station. The stars were bright and cold outside the windows. It was quiet and peaceful. "Stay?" he repeated. "On the Mercy, as part of the crew. I want to keep helping. I want to keep saving people." Tae-ho was quiet for a while. She could feel his emotions through her empathic sense, but they were complicated. Happiness mixed with worry, mixed with something else she could not name. "It is dangerous," he said finally. "You know that. You almost died twice." "I know. You could go somewhere safe instead. Find a Valorian colony, live a peaceful life." "I could, but I do not want a peaceful life. I want a meaningful one." He turned to look at her. His dark eyes were serious. You really want to stay? Yes. He smiled. That small, tired smile she had seen on his face the first time she opened her eyes in his arms. Then stay. The crew would want that. I would want that. She reached out and took his hand. He held it tightly. I have something to tell you, she said. Something important. What? In Valorian culture, when you hold someone's hand like this, it means something. It means you care about them. It means you want to be close to them. Taeho looked at their hands. What does it mean in human culture? The same thing, I think. He was quiet again. Then he lifted her hand and pressed it against his chest, over his heart. She could feel it beating, strong and steady. It means the same thing, he confirmed. They sat together in silence after that, watching the stars. Yuna felt something in her chest that she had not felt in a long time. Something warm and light and hopeful. 2 days later, news came that changed everything. The raiders who had attacked the convoy were not just random pirates. They were part of a larger syndicate, a criminal organization that controlled several sectors. They targeted refugees specifically because refugees were easy prey. No one would protect them. No one would come for revenge. The Galactic Council knew about the syndicate. They had known for years. But they did nothing because the syndicate paid bribes and stayed away from important systems. The refugees were not worth fighting for. Captain Jiwon called a meeting of the entire crew. She stood at the front of the room with a crutch under one arm, her missing leg replaced by a metal prosthetic. She looked fierce and determined. We have a choice, she said. We can take safe missions, transport cargo, ferry passengers, make money and stay out of danger. Or we can do what we were made to do. We can answer distress calls. We can rescue refugees. We can save lives. She paused and looked around the room. The second choice is dangerous. The syndicate will not like it. They will try to stop us. Some of us might die. No one spoke. No one moved. I am choosing the second option, Jiwon continued. This ship was built to save people, and that is what we are going to do. But I will not order anyone to come with me. If you want to leave, I will understand. There will be no shame in it. Silence. Then Taeho stood up. I am staying. Hana stood up. I am staying. Dongsu stood up. I am staying. One by one, every member of the crew stood up. Every single one. Jiwon smiled. It was the first time Yuna had ever seen her smile. Then the captain looked at Yuna. What about you? Yuna stood up. I am staying too. Jiwon nodded. Good. Then let us get to work. The Mercy left Haven 3 days later, fully repaired and fully crewed. They set course for the refugee routes, the dangerous paths between destroyed colonies and safe harbors. Yuna stood on the bridge beside Taeho and watched the stars stream past. She did not know what was coming. She did not know if they would survive. But she knew she was exactly where she was supposed to be. 1 year had passed since Yuna almost died in the void. She stood on the bridge of the Mercy, watching the scanner display light up with a distress signal. It was familiar now, this moment. The alert sounding, the crew moving to their stations, the ship changing course toward danger. She had done it dozens of times over the past year, but it never got easier. Every time could be the last. What do we have? Captain Jiwon asked from her command chair. Dongsu worked his console quickly. Single ship, small, looks like a family vessel. They are drifting near the outer marker. No engine power. Hull breach detected. Survivors? 1 life sign. Faint. 1 life. 1 person alone in a damaged ship, dying slowly in the cold darkness of space. It could have been Yuna 1 year ago. It could have been anyone. Rescue team. Suit up, Jiwon ordered. 5 minutes. Yuna was already moving. She had her own rescue suit now, custom made to fit her Valorian body. She grabbed it from the locker and started putting it on. Taeho appeared beside her, doing the same. Ready? Always. He smiled at her. That same smile she had seen so many times now. Tired but warm. Determined but gentle. So much had changed in the past year. They had saved hundreds of refugees. They had fought raiders and syndicate ships and pirates. They had lost crew members and gained new ones. The Mercy had become famous in certain circles, a legend among the desperate and forgotten. The human ship that always answered. And Yuna had changed too. She was not just a healer anymore. She was a rescue specialist, trained to go into danger and bring people out. She was part of the crew, part of the family. She belonged. The airlock opened, and they jumped out into space. The damaged ship was close, only a few hundred meters away. Yuna could see the breach in its hull, a dark hole where the metal had been torn open. No lights inside, no movement. They reached the airlock and forced it open. The inside was dark and cold. Ice covered the walls. The air was almost gone. "This way," Taeho said, checking his scanner. They moved through the ship carefully. It was small, just a few rooms connected by narrow corridors. A family vessel, like Dongsu had said, meant for short trips between systems, not meant for this. They found the survivor in the main cabin. It was a child, a young Valorian female, maybe 5 or 6 years old. She was curled up in a corner, wrapped in blankets, her small body shaking. Her eyes were closed. Her breathing was shallow. Yuna felt her heart break. She knelt beside the child and checked her vital signs. Weak, but stable. The child had survived this long by staying warm and staying still. She was strong. "Hey," Yuna said softly in Valorian. "It is okay. I am here. You are safe now." The child did not respond. She was too weak, too cold, too scared. Yuna picked her up carefully. The child weighed almost nothing. She was so small, so fragile. Yuna held her close to her chest, sharing her warmth, letting her empathic abilities send waves of comfort and peace. "I have her," Yuna said to Taeho. "Let us go." They moved back through the ship quickly. The hull was getting worse, more metal groaning and cracking around them. This vessel would not last much longer. They reached the airlock and jumped back into space. Yuna held the child tightly as they flew toward the Mercy. She could feel the small heart beating against her chest. Fast and scared, but still beating. "Hold on," she thought. "We are almost there." The Mercy's airlock opened and swallowed them. The door sealed behind them. Warm air flooded in, filling Yuna's suit. She pulled off her helmet and looked down at the child in her arms. The girl's eyes were opening, big golden eyes, just like Yuna's. They looked up at her with confusion and fear and something else. Hope, maybe, or relief. "You are safe now," Yuna said. "We came for you." The child looked past Yuna at the humans behind her, Taeho and Hana and Dongsu, all of them watching with concern on their faces. Strange creatures to a Valorian child. Flat faces and small ears and soft skin, but not scary. Not anymore. "They are friends," Yuna told the child. "They saved me once, just like we saved you. They will take care of you." The child stared at the humans for a long moment. Then she looked back at Yuna and asked a simple question. "Where are my parents?" Yuna did not know how to answer. She had seen the ship. She had seen the bodies inside, frozen and still. The parents had given their child all the blankets, all the warmth, all the oxygen. They had died so she could live. "They loved you very much," Yuna said. It was the only thing she could say. The child's face crumbled. She started to cry, loud and hard, her small body shaking with grief. Yuna held her tighter and let her cry. There was nothing else to do. Over the next few days, the child slowly recovered. Her name was Yuri. She was 6 years old. She had been traveling with her parents to a new colony when their ship was attacked by raiders. The parents had hidden Yuri and fought back, but they were not soldiers. They did not survive. Yuri did not talk much at first. She stayed close to Yuna and watched the humans with careful eyes. She was scared of them, the way Yuna had been scared at first. Big, strange creatures who spoke a language she did not understand. But slowly she began to open up. Dongsu made her laugh by doing silly tricks with his tools. Hana checked on her every day and brought her treats from the kitchen. Tai-Ho told her stories about Earth, about mountains and oceans and animals she had never seen. Captain Ji-Wan let her sit in the command chair and pretend to fly the ship. The crew did not have to do any of this. Yuri was just one child, one refugee out of thousands. They could have dropped her at the nearest station and moved on. But that was not who they were. "She needs a home," Yuna said to Tai-Ho one night. They were standing on the observation deck, watching the stars the way they always did. A real home, not a refugee camp or a station shelter. "Do you have somewhere in mind?" Yuna thought about it. Valorian colonies were scattered and struggling. Refugee settlements were crowded and poor. There was no good option. "No," she admitted. Tai-Ho was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that surprised her. "She could stay here." Yuna looked at him. "What?" "On the ship, with us. We could raise her, you and me, together." He said it calmly, like it was an obvious solution. Like raising a child on a rescue ship in dangerous space was a normal thing to do. Maybe it was, for them. "Are you sure?" Yuna asked. "No, but I am sure that I want to try. If you want to try." Yuna looked out at the stars. She thought about her own life, all the loss and pain and fear she had experienced. She thought about Yuri, alone in the universe with no one to care for her. She thought about what it would mean to give that child a home, a family. She thought about what it would mean to build something instead of just saving things. "Yes," she said, "I want to try." Tai-Ho took her hand. She leaned against him and closed her eyes. The Mercy flew on through the darkness, carrying its crew toward the next distress signal, the next rescue, the next life to save. It was dangerous and uncertain and scary. But it was also beautiful, and it was home.